and behavioral scientist who focuses on climate issues. A pleasure to have you on. I mean, I keep hearing that this is the new normal.
This is absolutely the new normal. This isn't just an uncomfortable year. This is not a freak version of a year. We are talking about this 5-year period will be, in recorded history, the hottest 5 years yet. The reason for that is because we can attribute climate change to increasing these heat waves by 30 times what we would expect otherwise if it wasn't for man-made climate change. And we need to take this really seriously because these heat waves are unprecedented in places like Europe that you've described in the report as really suffering. We don't have the infrastructure in place for people to deal with it, and it's resulting in fatalities.
So then how do you get people to take it seriously, especially when there's a lot of people out there who say, look, this isn't man-made climate change, this is just a part of the weather cycle. There's been extreme weather many years ago, hundreds of years ago.
And that's a great question, and it's unfortunate we're still having to deal with it, despite the fact the recent report came out saying that we basically have scientific consensus on the fact that climate change is really real and something we need to be concerned about, and definitely not a freak accident. So ultimately, what we need to do is recognize why there is still widespread disbelief around it. There's two reasons for it. One is that the brain hasn't evolved as fast as the risk landscape that we've created through technology, through science, through advancement, through human ingenuity. Everything we've done as a society since the dawn of our species has created new risk, and our brain hasn't caught up. So we're still thinking about basic survival as opposed to these really real existential threats that we need to get on board with and find solutions for. The second issue is that we find that if you have an identity that is, let's say, conservative, then the likelihood that you also believe climate change to not be a real threat is correlated by almost 70%. That just goes to show the real power of identity, and we need to overcome both of these.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I mean, what about the people who say, look, well, you know what, we're at the point of no return, right? I mean, is it too late? Is it reversible?
So the Paris Accord required us to keep our end-of-century temperature under 2. And right now we're on our way to 3. So what we need to do is stave off those worst-case scenarios because, yeah, we're locked into warming. So people who are concerned about the fact that we're going to be experiencing a much harder climate going forward and that this is the reality and the normal going forward, they're right. This is something we need to recognize and adapt to, but we can still prevent those worst-case scenarios. That is going to be the difference between are we just uncomfortable or is this planet uninhabitable? And that's critical for us right now, to be proactive.
We are at a critical inflection point, aren't we? But if governments like the United States, which pulled out of the Paris Accord, if they're unwilling to make change, if this is all about politics, I mean, what can we individually do to make a difference?
Individuals can still work within their communities at their local levels and really count on those local and state governments as well as corporate leaders to be proactive in this where governance is lacking. It's really unfortunate that we don't have global leadership from the United States, for example, to lead this charge, especially when the urgency is so obvious. But that doesn't mean that we don't have power in individuals and movements. If you look at some of the climate action that is really becoming widespread through campaigns, through technology, through the power of young voices like Greta Thunberg, for example, these are the kinds of things and leaders, new leaders that we can look to and understand how to adjust our lives so we are on top of the problem and not catching up to it. I have a lot of hope for us still.
I'm glad you do. That's optimistic to hear. Shanta Chakraborty, we appreciate you joining us. Wise words. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Amara.
Absolutely.